This is Tech Talk Radio. I'm Andy Taylor.
And I'm Justin Lemmy.
We are the show that talks about computers,
technology,
and the internet. And Slick is out today.
Yeah, but I'm back.
You're back. Yeah, where have you been?
Vacation.
You had a fun time. Your mother and father-in-law were in town.
Yeah, they flew out here from Tokyo, Japan, and they spent the week with us. So that was actually really good. We got to show them around Denver and had a good time. They just left a couple days ago, back to go home.
What did they think of the culture here? Did they like it?
It's extremely different, obviously. But I took Misa's dad out to the local pool hall where I do my pool league. So did a little practicing out there. So he kind of sat and just kind of looked around and watched me play pool, and we had a beer and.
Right.
So he was just like, wow, this is kind of interesting, I mean, he's in the restaurant industry himself. His job is to scout for locations for new restaurants. So
really,
so he was interested in going to all these new restaurants, seeing how they're laid out, kind of thing, because it gives him ideas as well. But yeah, they definitely enjoyed it. It was a good time to have him here.
Oh, now only in the U.S.? I mean, only in Japan or in the U.S. as well? Do they have?
No, he does this. It's strictly in Japan. Yeah.
That's kind of cool. So did he look at your studio? Did he?
Yeah, we showed him the office and everything. He was just like, "Oh, this is so cool,"
right.
Like 3 monitors, and like, "Oh, this is Justin's office / man cave," I guess you could say. So, yeah.
Did you ask him about being a correspondent? Talking about all the tech in Japan that is.
He's not a tech person.
No,
not at all. No, not at all. No.
That would be kind of cool.
That would.
We do have some stuff to talk about today. If you're doing any, did he do any computing from here? Well, you say he's not a tech person, but I mean checking email and.
Oh yeah, he was checking his work email every morning.
Right.
Just for while we're all getting ready to go out and do stuff, he was checking his work email. And actually, I was doing the same thing, even though I was, out of the office. I was right there, working from home, with checking the emails, looking at things I can get done in the morning, and then we would take off and go do stuff as a family together. So
it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Well, talking about tech and remote computing, there's been a big story over the last week or two about TeamViewer.
Oh yeah, this is a big thing,
and some issues. And we're not going to get really too in depth with it, but it is something to be concerned with if you use the TeamViewer program. So we'll talk about that. We've got all kinds of subjects really to kind of cover today. But I'll tell you, one of my absolute favorite subjects is digital photography.
Yes,
and Photoshop. And they used to make fun of me because Slick and Carol used to say that I put this guy up on this pedestal because he was like the best, what I consider to be one of the best at it. Scott Kelby, who has written tons of books on digital photography, to talk a little bit about Photoshop World, the big conference that's coming. And we want to find out a little bit about that, but also get some tips on digital photography. So on the line with us is Scott Kelby from Kelby One Group. Scott, great to talk to you.
Hey, Scott, how you doing?
Oh, absolutely. My pleasure. It's always a blast.
Now, Scott, tell us, when you put together the National Association of Photoshop Professionals and Photoshop User Magazine, was it as rampant with digital photography as we are now?
No. When we started all this, Photoshop was a tool literally for graphic designers.
That was it, yeah.
You used it. Yeah, you used it to basically convert images to CMYK for print, and that was the big thing back then, was doing, converting images for magazines, for newsletters, and for brochures and annual reports, and that's pretty much, it was a graphic designer's tool, and they were people whose entire job were pre-press specialists. They sat in front of a computer all day long working on preparing images for print, and then when I got into it, I was the graphic designer at the time, and so that's how I got into it, trying to convert get better black and white conversions than shooting with a stat camera, because stat cameras made everything look bad. And so somebody turned me on to Photoshop, and I started doing Photoshop, and that was the first time I did an image on Photoshop was the last time I used a stat camera.
Oh, wow. Really?
It was that much better. Oh, yeah.
Wow. And it's a change, and I know we'll get into some of the things that people are looking at now, but I think back then, people started getting into the, computer age, and they would just throw anybody in the office and say, okay, you create our graphics. And maybe they had no experience at all. They'd open up Photoshop and they would just stare at it because they had no idea the power behind the program. Even early versions of Photoshop or even, Alda's Photo Styler, the people would look at it and just go, "Oh, what do I do with this?" Right? I mean, that's where the
Well,
people were
yeah,
left.
it wasn't intuitive, I can tell you. You kind of had to know where you were going. It was like sitting at the cockpit of an airplane, and you just, there's a lot of knobs here. Which one do I push, and what does it do? It was a very, to some part, it's still, fairly intimidating. But no, it's interesting, Andy. Is all the way back to Photoshop 1.0, right?
Yeah.
The very first version of Photoshop. We still use tools every single day today, like 25 years later, that were in Photoshop 1.0.
Exactly.
That was such a brilliant program written on a weekend by a college kid, right? Thomas Knoll, the guy that wrote it almost kind of as like a college project on a weekend. And to this day, like things like the unsharp mask, which we all use for sharpening images to this very day, that was in Photoshop 1.0 25 years ago.
Amazing.
When dinosaurs ruled the earth.
Wait,
Yeah.
when so many other programs are out, Corel has them. There's others that have programs that work with digital photos. Why do you think Photoshop from Adobe has really kind of stayed the course and been on top of the game?
Well, I think it started as a professional's tool. I think everybody that started back in the old days, it was $700. So you didn't buy it on a lark. It wasn't like, hey, I wonder if this will be any good. You were kind of making money with it because $700 is a lot of money to spend for a piece of software. You better make darn sure you're going to find some kind of a return on investment. So it started off as the pros tool, and then as digital photography started to take hold many years later, a lot of the people that were getting into digital photography, we're more affluent people. A lot of people, I always say that photography is like golf, but you don't play golf. Like, if you're a golfer, you go in that direction. You buy really nice bags and really nice clubs, and you'll buy the best new driver because it'll get you 10 extra yards, and you think that the equipment's going to be the difference. But if you don't play golf, then you become a photographer, and you buy really nice cameras and really nice lenses, and you want to buy the next new body because it might make your pictures 10% better. And so that group that said, I'm going to spend all this money on this really nice camera gear, the first thing they said was, well, I want to use the tool the pros use. What are they using? Photoshop? Oh, okay, that's for me.
Exactly.
And so that's how a lot of amateurs wound up using Photoshop, was they wanted to use the same tool the pros use.
Now, I do find, though, that many photographers that are out there, that there are some that still shoot with, your standard film cameras, and there's obviously the ones that have, the higher end Nikons and Canons, etc. They kind of detest the whole, I'll fix it in Photoshop. And I remember that was one of the subjects at Photoshop World many years ago. Do they still have that kind of feeling, or are they really striving for everybody to take better photos?
Well, I think that when you hear someone say, "Oh, I don't want to fix it in Photoshop," or "That's cheating," or that just means you don't know Photoshop.
Good point.
No one that actually knows Photoshop is going to go, "Oh, yeah, you shouldn't do that." They're going to go, "Are you kidding? Photoshop's awesome. It's the greatest thing ever. It's part of the process," I mean, I think that generally we should all strive to make the best picture we can in camera.
Yeah.
But if you go back and look at the greatest photographers in history, if you look at like Edward Weston, and you look back at Henri Cartier-Bresson, all the photographers that we look up to and admire and stuff today, they were all doing their version of it. They would take the negative, they would write all over it. I'm not the negative. They make a print from the negative and go, crop this here, make this darker, make this brighter. All the same things that we do in Photoshop, they just did in the darkroom. It's just easier. Instead of you telling somebody else, here's a list of instructions. If you've ever seen that famous picture of James Dean in Times Square, right, a very, very famous
Right.
picture, taken by, the guy's name, a wonderful photographer. It just popped out of my head for a second. But if you look at his directions on how the darkroom editor needed to change that picture, he's got 50 things on there. That was a craft. He could look at the photo and go, this needs to be darker, that needs to be brighter, this needs to be this way, remove this thing, crop it here, crop it there, do this, do that. Now we just do it ourselves. But they've been doing this forever. They've been doing a version of Photoshop, including Ansel Adams, has been doing this forever. So it's very disingenuous these days to pretend that Photoshop isn't part of the process, or manipulating photos hasn't been part of the process, because the the people that we all look up to
Right.
all did this.
Yeah.
They all did it.
They all did it. It's just different tools. That's
Yeah,
pretty
they
much
all
it.
did. Yeah.
And I found Photoshop to be extremely helpful, too, for restoring older photos and getting that special moment when something in the background maybe just isn't right. You got a kid making a goofy face or something on a very poignant photo that can easily be fixed and rectified with Photoshop. And that's one of the things, like you said, people kind of poo-poo it, but yet it really is a helpful tool. It's a great companion to a photographer.
Oh, yeah. And again, the people that poo-poo it are the people that don't know how to use it. You're never going to find anyone that's really good. Like, are you good at Photoshop? Oh, yeah, I'm awesome. What do you think of it? I don't like it. Not fair.
Right.
What? No. If the people that are poo-pooing it are the people that think it is an unfair advantage because they don't know it.
Now,
once you learn it, you're like, this is amazing.
One of the things I love about the Photoshop World Conference is you do have many different sessions, even from setting up a wedding, how to take better photos at a wedding, and then of course you'll put them into Photoshop and do some fine tuning, etc. on those photos. As your books that have come out, like the digital photography book, can those help even now? Can those help the beginner, that person who's moving from a film camera to their first digital camera, or even, for that matter, taking photos with their smartphones? Smartphones have changed so much in the last 5 years.
Yeah. I got to tell you, there's not many people left who are still shooting film.
Right.
There was a time where you could throw a stick and hit one, but, I mean, it's 2016. I cannot tell you the last time I talked to a person that was shooting film. If I find someone today who's shooting film, it's someone who's completely digital and wants to do a nostalgia thing.
Exactly.
Like, hey, I think it'd be a kick to buy a film camera, and there's no shortage of finding them on eBay. You can buy film cameras all day long for nothing. But I really, everyone that has moved, that's like trying to find someone who still uses an 8-track player. Mm-hmm. Is there somebody out there in an old GTO that still has one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then again,
finding a CD player now. It's like, hey, do you have a CD player? What?
But then again, Scott, when you think about it, there's filters out there to give it that nostalgic look that you can plug right into Photoshop.
Oh, yeah. Heck, it plugs into your phone, right? Take a picture of your phone. And where do you think all those Instagram looks come from? All those Instagram looks are basically trying to recreate different film looks. Yeah. They're trying to recreate those old film looks, those old, and the emulsion look and the noise. They add noise into all these things to make it look like the photos that we thought were crappy back in the day. Yeah. And now it's nostalgic and hip, and it's retro, and hey, let's add all these pretty filters. But I'm cool with it. It's like getting the film look is a thing, and people have gotten really very popular on using that look. So I'm down with it. I think it's cool.
If you were, and I've been following some of the videos you've been posting on Facebook and other social media as well, how to take a better picture. If there was some advice you could give to some of our listeners out there that are really wanting to get into photography, what would you recommend for them to do? What, obviously, other than joining NAPP and taking some of the courses, is there some basic tips?
Well, I mean, it depends on what you want to shoot. So we'll say we're going to make portraits, because that's a lot of people take pictures of people because we love people.
Yeah.
So I would say, and this is going to sound like a really kind of like, this has been, I'm not breaking any new ground here on this one because it's been around forever. But a big secret is literally to get closer to whatever you're shooting. Yeah. Not just a little closer, get way closer. For example, I'll give you an idea of when you're shooting portraits. Most of the time when someone who's brand new to photography takes a portrait of someone, they do two things. Number one is they put them dead in the center of the picture. They're right in the middle of the picture like it's target practice.
Right.
So that's like, there is this way. That's where your average person puts people. So if you want your picture to look really average, put your subject right in the middle. But if you want it to have a little more, be more dynamic and interesting, have a little more depth, put them over to the left side or over to the right side a bit. Move them a third to the left or a third to the right instead of being right in the center. That already makes it more interesting. And number two is that get closer thing is big. Most people will make sure that you see an entire person's head. Like their entire head, the top of their head, and then there's a good amount of space above it.
Right, exactly.
And if you open up a magazine or look at professional photography, their images they draw you in because they're cropped much closer. They'll take about a third to 2/3 of the head off. Like they'll get close enough to where the top 2/3 of your head are not there, but it creates a very intimate and a very contemporary look. It's like, that's the look now. You don't make sure a person's whole head is in there. And once you do it a couple times, you're like, hey, this looks really good. And that's because that's how we see professional images all day long, every day, in ads, on TV, on the web. But then we go to take our own pictures, we put people in the center, we get their whole head in there, put a bunch of space above their head, and you go, why does mine look like a snapshot? Well, there's a couple of reasons right there. So those are 2 tips I think that would certainly help in making better photos of people.
Do you have a favorite genre, Scott, photos that you like to take? I mean, I was surprised to see recently Moose Peterson, who we know has done a lot of wildlife, did some shots of warbirds that I looked at them and they were breathtaking. Do you have a favorite subject?
Well, I have 3. I shoot 3 things. So I shoot pro sports. And so I shoot, like during the NFL season, I shoot, NFL every weekend. And I shoot for a wire service, and I also shoot for some teams. And then, so I really like sports. I like sports in general, but I'm really a football fanatic. So shooting football season for me is like it. I love travel photography because I love everything about travel, and the travel photography aspect gives me a semi-legitimate excuse to actually do photography on vacation.
Oh, yeah. It's a good write-off.
It's a good write-off. And then number 3, it's photographing people. I enjoy photographing something that reacts with you and you can influence. When you show up I used to shoot landscapes. I literally kind of just gave up on landscape photography. And one of the reasons why is because, number 1, you have to shoot landscapes at dawn or dusk, which means you're missing breakfast or lunch or dinner. And then, but really, getting up really early in the morning, standing in the rain or the cold. I mean, I've been on location for some landscape shoots where it's so freezing and you're holding your tripod to keep it from flying over in the wind, and I'm just like, there's got to be an easier way to make photos than this. And you can't influence anything. It's like the scene that's in front of you is what's in front of you. And it can be a beautiful scene, or Mother Nature can say, nope, it's going to be an ugly day. And we're going to we're not going to give you a still, beautiful lake. We're going to give you choppy, ugly water. And we're going to give you not a cloud in the sky, and you get what you get. And I realized that, with people, number 1, I just love people, so that makes it easy. Yeah. But number 2 is, with people, you can have an influence over the outcome of the photo. And in fact, I think the biggest influence you'll have over a photograph of a person is not the light, because you can put up a flash or studio lighting and I love that, and I do both quite a bit. But it's getting expression and emotion out of your subject, which is what makes a special picture. You can't get expression or emotion out of a landscape. It looks at you and says, it's a crappy day, have at it. But and every once in a while you get lucky. You go to a landscape and it's just incredible sky, but it's that every once in a while thing. A friend of mine once said he has these amazing landscape photos, and he would show a slideshow, and you just want to throw your stuff in the garbage after watching it. And I was a guest instructor. One of the students raises their hand and says, can you tell me how you get these amazing photos of all these iconic places all over the United States? And he goes, oh, you want the secret? Go there 25 times.
Yeah.
One of those times, it'll be perfect.
That's
but you got to go again and again and again and again, and then all of a sudden, Mother Nature shows up and lays it out in front of you. All you have to do is set up a tripod and go click.
That's
but the other 24 times, it's
Well, that's what I've kind of told other photographers too. Is you want to get better at the craft, keep doing it. There's nothing to hold you back. We don't have the cost of film anymore. It's digital.
Right.
Take them, play with them, work them, and then that's a great way to learn Photoshop too, by having hands-on. One of the ways. Now, I do want to get to a question Priscilla asked in Facebook chat, asking what is the difference between Photoshop and Adobe Lightroom, and who would be using Lightroom?
Everyone should use Lightroom. So Lightroom was built by Adobe as a tool for photographers from the ground up. Photoshop was built as a tool for graphic designers, and they added photography features later. So Photoshop is very, very powerful, but it's much, much harder to learn than Lightroom. Lightroom really speaks to photographers. It was designed from the ground up for photographers. It's a photography love fest. And once you start using Lightroom, you will only go to Photoshop in emergency situations.
Nice.
So I would say that I spend 80% of my time in Lightroom and 20% of my time in Photoshop, and that's only when there's something that I can't get Lightroom to do. But Lightroom does so much. It's such a pleasure. It's so well designed. I love it, love it, love it, love it, love it.
There you go. Now, our listeners want to attend the next Photoshop World. It's going to be in Las Vegas. Tell us a little more about it.
So it's a 3-day photography, Photoshop, and Lightroom. Ta-da! Love that.
Like that.
So we have 8 different tracks that run the whole conference. So you can decide what you're interested in. So if you're just interested in photography, you take just photography classes for 3 solid days. If you're just interested in Lightroom or lighting or inspiration or Photoshop for graphic designers or wedding or whatever you want, there's all these different tracks. You choose the tracks you want, come and go as you please, switch between tracks anytime. And we wrap it in just a ton of fun with nighttime events and parties and just fun stuff. And it's sponsored by Adobe, and we produce the event, but they sponsor it, and they are awesome for doing that. And it's just literally, it's in Vegas. It's July 19th, 20th, and 21st, and it's just a blast. This is our 19th year of doing Photoshop World, and it's like the biggest Photoshop event in the world. And thousands of people come from all over and just have a Photoshop load there.
It is an absolute blast. It really is a lot of fun. You learn a lot. And you hand out this book that is going to be the encyclopedia for the next couple of years or till the next Photoshop World that is full of tips, all the tips that are covered in some of the sessions.
Yeah, so that's been a big thing for us. And we still do it old school, man. We do it in digital and in paper. So
nice.
It's the size of a phone book. It literally is. It looks like the New York City phone book. It's giant because we have over 100 classes. And so most of the classes are in there. Some of the classes there's not notes for because it wouldn't make sense to have notes for them. It's a live shoot or it's an inspirational talk with just photos. So,
right.
But the classes where you need notes, we have notes for all of them. And it's people. We have people that come year after year after year, and they will send us pictures of their shelf with all these phone book size workbooks on them. But we do it in digital now too, because some people don't feel like hauling a phone book around. So we do have the digital version and the printed version to take home and enjoy with your family for years.
Awesome. Okay, so how do we get more information about that? They can actually get registered, the whole bit. And a little bit about joining the NAPP. I think this is a great thing. We did a photo walk a few years ago with Barney Street here in Tucson. Had an absolute blast. You're still doing those, correct?
Yeah, we still do the Worldwide Photo Walk. It's every October in 1,000+ cities around the world, and it's the world's largest social photography event. So it's in its 9th year. You're coming up this year, so
much fun.
That's very cool. And so the NAPP merged with our online training from Kelby Training. So we had NAPP and Kelby Training became 3 years ago became Kelby One.
Right.
So it's all under one big umbrella. So you get everything. You get Photoshop User Magazine, and you get all access to 600 full-length online courses, and just over 10,000 lessons on Photoshop photography, lighting, Lightroom, and the Adobe Creative Cloud apps.
Exactly. Everything from Premiere to, I would still wish you'd bring back Layers Magazine. I love that. That was my favorite.
It was a good magazine. That was
great.
That was a good one, but it was a hard magazine to put together. It was
very
hard.
I can imagine. Well,
it covered everything.
Scott, great stuff. And again, I hope our listeners make it out to Vegas for Photoshop World. I want to thank you so much for coming on and talking with us today.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. My pleasure. Thanks. Anytime.
We'll do it again. We'll see you in Vegas.
All right. Cheers.
Yeah, I want to go.
Photoshop World, it's a blast.
I think that would be a great time.
You know, it's a lot of seminars, a lot of classes on everything from how to manipulate with Photoshop. They do segments on how to take better photos, which I think a lot of people go to for that. Everybody gets a new DSLR. You know how it is.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I remember when I got mine, I wanted to just learn as much as I could about it. You know, it's a great hobby.
The past week, I showed the V10 on Fox 11, and the V10 has some features on it, and that's a smartphone from LG, that you can actually manually do all of your settings, focus, exposure, f-stop, the whole bit. So it really replicates that DSLR feeling, and I think more and more smartphones are going to be doing that. So we're going to be I don't want to say ditching completely the Canons and the Nikons, but I have a feeling a lot of us are going to be using our smartphones for getting some really great shots.
Absolutely. It's just that the cameras, it seems like every generation of smartphone, the cameras get better and better.
We're going to take a quick break. We come back with more of Tech Talk Radio. We'll tell you a little bit about the whole TeamViewer thing. If you use TeamViewer, and if you thought about using a program to remote into your computer from work or vice versa, we'll tell you why you really got to think about this one.
And we'll also take your questions at 1-800-524-6527. We're also live on Facebook. During
Facebook Live.
Facebook Live. If you have a question on Facebook Live, you can go ahead and ask us right there.
We'll be back with more of Tech Talk Radio. I'm Andy Taylor.
And I'm Justin Lemmy.
This is Tech Talk Radio. I'm Andy Taylor.
And I'm Justin Lemmy. Our website, techtalkradio.com. The Facebook page, facebook.com/techtalkers.
Big story in the news this past week.
One of these hacks.
People are still talking about it. And, you know, the thing is, I think when the original story broke, I saw this story on Reddit and then started seeing other stories out there about TeamViewer. Now, TeamViewer may remind you, remember the program Go to My PC?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Which is still available, still out there. Citrix purchased them, and then they made a big thing.
How a lot of tech support happens, remote tech support.
Yeah, exactly. If you have a problem with your computer, I mean, I remember when Go to My PC was out there, and I remember my mom was having a problem. I made sure that we got that installed on her computer, so that way when she had an issue, I didn't have to drive 800 miles to go visit her and fix it, because she got taken by some companies. I can tell you stories about that.
Yeah.
So having that remote capability has been good, not only for the office computer, but office for also when you want to grab a file that maybe you forgot, or you want to log in and check your email from a remote location.
Or you want to log into your work computer and pretend that you're actually doing something so it looks like you're there, but you're actually on your phone. Not that I do.
You do that?
No. I'm just saying it's possible.
Well, TeamViewer is basically free for the consumer version. There's a business model, which is rather pricey. But while some have said that TeamViewer got hacked, TeamViewer is saying, no, we didn't get hacked. This is all a problem.
Semantics.
Yeah, it's all a problem and they threw it back on us, the user. And the reason being is because of bad password management.
Well, yeah, obviously, but still.
They're saying what's happening is with social networks being hacked, and they're not just saying, TeamViewer. They're saying social networks getting hacked. Those passwords then that are being hacked can relate to individual users that use the same password across every single different device they need to log into, whether it be their banking, whether it be their email, whether it be their Snapchat, their Facebook, Tinder, all of that stuff. People tend to use the same password.
They do. And I do not do that. I mean, I have what I call kind of like a master password, but different sites that I use do different variations of that password, and it's a very, it does contain all different types of ASCII, uppercase, numerals, special characters, all that stuff. So it's a very difficult password, but I always do different variations of it, and I know that, that password is secure. But doesn't matter how secure your password is, the golden rule is you should always be changing your passwords every, 6 months to a year.
But how many people get so fed up? There's nothing worse than when you get to work, you're trying to log in, you're trying to get something done, and it tells you, hey, the network administrator, and you are one of those. You are one of those guys that send you that, hey, you got to change your password now. And then you have to sit there and remember something. So the thing you remember is the last password from something else you've logged into. So then next thing you know, you're using your same passwords.
I just go into Active Directory and I just uncheck the box that says password is expired for my own account, and it resets it for another 90 days.
Yeah, but see, that's the thing. That's why they're saying that it's such a problem that people are using the same passwords, because again, we just don't want to deal with it. So then they say, well, what do you do?
Every 90 days having to remember a new password?
Right. And if you've ever looked, just to tell you how your password should look, if you've ever looked, I want to say at the bottom of your router, what your Wi-Fi password used to be when you first bought it, and then you change it to something easy so you'd remember, that's really the kind of complexity that your password should have. Uppercase, lowercase, symbols, the whole bit.
Numbers, yeah.
And more than 4 letters. I mean, when somebody is using the word password as their password, they're asking for trouble. Somebody is going to get curious, and they're going to say, "Let's see if this will work." And that's exactly what people, I think, have been doing with TeamViewer, is saying, "Wait a minute, let's see what they're using." And people have been getting hacked and money taken out of PayPal because people are using the same account for PayPal.
Yeah, once you get one password, like I said, and this is partly what I just mentioned, is I have a variation of my password. So if somebody figured out what my main password was, they could probably log into a lot of different sites using that because it's a variation of it. But the variations are different enough that it's not something like it's one little character different here, or that, I mean, it has a methodology behind it that I've used. So it would be difficult, but it is possible that if somebody found it out, they'd be able to possibly reverse engineer it and get into other sites. So it's just too difficult to try to remember 1,000 passwords. And I know that there's apps on the phone that will give you where you can type in one master password, it unlocks the vault, and then you can list all your websites and your login information for it. But still, again, one password gets by that. If one person can figure out your master password to your app on your phone, they now have access to every one of your passwords for every one of your websites. So again, I don't even really use those apps.
Would it make sense, though, if you had a master password that is of that same complexity as, a router? I mean, think about it. If somebody was to use their driver's license number and then part of the social and part of an old address, something that you could remember, but somebody would have to do a lot of digging. And then at that point, then it's a lot harder to kind of crack that password using a program that is made for that process.
Yes, that is possible. But again, it really just boils down to nothing is 100% secure.
Right.
I mean, not only people just guess things, they've got these sophisticated programs that'll do brute force attacks that'll try millions of password combinations within the matter of minutes or hours. So if you're really going to get hacked, you're going to get hacked. I mean, there's nothing around it.
I have a program that does do that. That does break
Loftcrack.
passwords, and it's pretty good. It does its trick, and when you use just a word where it's a combination of a word and a word. Yeah, it'll take a while.
5 seconds maybe.
Well, a little longer than that. It will take a while.
Yeah.
But when you use the complexity that I was talking about, where maybe it's a combination of things that meant something to you, you know what they are. Again, one password to remember for a password manager. You know what they are. I have one. It worked for 3 weeks and still did not uncover it. And it was using brute force.
Interesting.
And it was on a PC dedicated. That's all it did. So, and it was a password that I forgot. So, and I tried to crack it myself and I couldn't. So that's what I'm saying, is that maybe in that respect, that's going to be the best way to do it. There are, again, password managers that are out there. And I've heard of Dashlane 4, which is supposed to be pretty good. They cost money though. I mean, that's the thing. If you think it's worth it. Now, others have used even spreadsheets from Excel where they line everything up in there, and then they use this intense password to get into the file. Now, what some people do is say, well, wait a minute, what happens if you pass? What if you die? Then obviously it needs to be managed. Yeah, so then you take that one password and you put it in a safe deposit box.
That's true. You could do that. Yep. And then, but if you ever change that, then you're gonna have to figure that out. But now, let me ask you this though.
Right.
Speaking of hacking, how much would you pay for a phone that is touted as being unhackable? How much would you pay for it?
I probably wouldn't pay any more than I would pay for another phone. I mean,
would you pay $14,000?
No, heck no.
Well,
no.
There is a new company, Sirin Labs, that they're based out of Israel. They released this new phone called the Solarin Android that has smartphone insiders really excited. They just did a big launch event. In fact, Leonardo DiCaprio and Tom Hardy, both who starred in the Revenant movie, were present at this launch of this new $14,000 smartphone based off the Android operating system that they tout as having the highest level of security and that it's unhackable. There's a couple different things. It's got some privacy tools. It also has a special security switch on the back of the handset. When it's flipped, the phone enters a shielded mode, allowing for fully encrypted calls and messages. So I don't know. I mean,
why? I don't understand why I would need that.
14,000. Well, I mean, if you're the president of the United States, maybe something like that, But if you're Leonardo DiCaprio, come on. Come on, really?
Maybe he needs it.
$14,000?
I don't know if that's money. Maybe there are people that would need to have that espionage in companies.
Well, CEOs of companies, yes, possibly when they're talking about proprietary information. I could think of one other. Let's see, Hillary Clinton might want one of those.
Next to her mail server.
Next to her mail server, yeah. It says here, the CEO of the company, he says, our core customers are international business travelers that spend much of their lives on the move. The mobile phones are increasingly used for business critical and confidential information gathering. So yeah, CEOs of companies that need to discuss this, that cannot go behind closed doors in a private location, they need to use their phone. So I guess I could see if you're a high level CEO and you've got company secrets that you have to be able to discuss, whether it be voice phone calls, secure emails, text messages. I mean, they have BlackBerries, and that's what the president uses, is a special version of the BlackBerry that's, considered top secret SCI.
Right.
But this phone, they're saying this is better than that.
For $14,000.
$14,000.
Amazing.
They've been working on it since 2013, so.
Wow.
Interesting. And the company, again, is Sirin, Sirin.
All right. I like that.
Yeah.
Something to think about. All right, we take a break. We come back. We're going to tell you a little bit about some amazing numbers when it comes to what you're using on social media. If you are on Twitter, if you are on Facebook, if you're
Instagram.
on MySpace.
Oh, come on. What is this, 2002?
What social media? What is the new social media app that you should be on? And honestly, I have to agree. It's the way to go. We'll be back with more of Tech Talk Radio. I'm Andy Taylor.
And I'm Justin Lemmy. Our Twitter, @TechTalkRadio, and our blog.techtalkradio.com. We'll be right back.
We're back with Tech Talk Radio. I'm Andy Taylor.
And I'm Justin Lemmy. Now, before the break, we asked, according to a new USA Today poll, 3% of us, only 3%, have asked a complete stranger for this. What is it? Do you have a guess? Besides a buck?
Besides $1. For a ride?
For a ride. No.
I don't know.
The answer is to borrow a phone charger.
Oh, yeah. I can totally see
But
that.
only 3%?
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
I get that all the time.
Do you really? You get that at work when you're sitting in your office, somebody come by, I forgot my charger at home?
No. I'm the one asking people to borrow it. I'm like, hey, my battery's down to like 20%. Can I borrow your charger real quick?
You can't miss the season ender of Silicon Valley. You remember that? Where he couldn't find his, his phone died. He's just asking random people. Then the next step is asking to borrow their phone.
Or borrow their laptop. Oh, I just need to check Reddit real quick.
Never, yeah, right. Never, ever loan your phone to somebody. That's a great way to get hacked.
Well, absolutely. Oh, I just make a quick phone call real fast. Like, I mean, I've seen things where these people play pranks on each other, and it's a prank, but they'll be like, hey, man, can I borrow your phone real quick? And the guy will be like, yeah, sure. And the guy will be like, I'll just make a quick phone call. And he'll be like, dialing the number, and then he'll just walk away with the guy's phone. And the guy's like, what's going on right here?
Have you ever given your...
And the guy like wave him off, like, get away from me, get away from me.
Yeah. Have you ever given your phone to somebody to show them a picture? And then they start scrolling?
Oh, my wife does that all the time. I'm like, excuse me? That's my phone? What are you doing?
It's like, what are you scrolling for? Yeah. I didn't tell you to scroll. I said, take a look at this picture.
Yeah, one picture.
Yeah.
Not 30.
That'd be a fun prank to do, just to see somebody freak out. It's just a weird thing. But okay, so phone charger. Yeah, I know I've done that at work where I've just said, "Hey, can I borrow your charger?"
Yeah.
I think the phone is a whole different ball of wax.
That is totally. Oh, you know what? I wanted to mention this because I haven't talked to you for a little bit, but I did something interesting this week just because I wanted to try something new. Not necessarily for the money, but I started driving for Uber.
Oh, no, you did not.
I did. I just wanted to see what the whole thing was about, because, I mean, I ride with Uber.
Right.
And I wanted to see what it was like to drive.
I was a network engineer at one point.
Yes.
And now I drive for Uber. What did you think about it?
Well, the process to get started with Uber is actually... It's not that hard. I mean, there's certain things you got to have. You got to have a particular model of car. It's got to be made after a certain year. It's got to be 4 doors. And based on the type of car you have, then you can qualify for like an Uber SUV, or if you have like a black car, like a Chrysler 300 or a Cadillac or something like that, you can qualify for Uber Black. I drive the Audi, so once I get a certain amount of rides, and a high enough rating, I can qualify for Uber Select, which is the luxury, like BMWs, Mercedes,
Nice.
Audis, Cadillacs, stuff like that. But right now I'm driving just Uber X. So the process, you got to give them your insurance, your driver's license. You got to go get a medical checkup just to make sure that you can, they got to get a medical checkup on, and the doctor's got to sign off saying, you can.
What? Really?
Yeah. And you got to do that. So I did all that. I turned it all into Uber, and they're like, okay, online. You do it all online. And they're like, okay, we'll get back to you in a couple days. And within 30 minutes, all of a sudden, I get a notice on my phone that says, or text message that says, you've been qualified. You can go ahead and start driving now. Click here to download the app. So you download what's called the Uber Partner app, and it's a little bit different than the standard Uber app. What's most interesting about this, and I want to show you, at least for our Facebook Live viewers here, is I can see where the surge areas are happening in town.
Now, surge means
surge-
areas that are very busy, right?
Yes, and this is what a surge area looks like. Now, if you're watching a Facebook Live or even just watching this back on Facebook after we've gone off live, I'm showing a map of Denver right now, and there is a section of it that's red. Now, what this area is this is considered a surge area. Now, some people think, a lot of people had the thing that says, oh, that just means Uber's trying to make more money because there's a lot of riders. It's actually the exact opposite. What this is doing is it's trying to encourage more drivers to get to that area because there is a demand.
Show us that again. I want to see that on Facebook
Okay,
Live.
let's go ahead and, you know what? It's going to have to relaunch here.
Great, never mind that.
No, right here.
Okay, wait, you got it?
Yep, right there.
All right, let's take a look here. All
Yeah.
right. Oh, wow.
So you can kind of see the different area
So
that...
if you go into those areas...
Yeah, and you collect a fare. If you're in that area and a fare pops up that's within that area, it will notify you that you're getting surge paid, and obviously the rider itself has to allow that before they can request a ride. It's going to say, this is a surge fare. Are you sure you want to take this fare? And they have to say yes, and then ask them one more time, are you absolutely sure? Because this way they can't go, well, I didn't know it was a surge fare. Yeah, you did. We asked you twice.
Wow.
Anyway, but it gets more drivers there. And I noticed that when I drove that first day, I got to an area with a surge area, and I swear I saw Uber cars everywhere because you're required to have that little Uber logo in your windshield.
Right.
I saw people driving everywhere. And so before I got to that area, I'm driving. I'm like, I'm going to hit the Highlands, which is just, northwest of downtown, about 10 minutes from my house. As I'm driving, I'm online, and so I'm waiting for a fare, and all of a sudden I get the bring, 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 and it's like, it's telling me there's a fare nearby, but you only have 20 seconds to acknowledge it and pick up that fare. If you don't, it goes to the next Uber driver who's in that area.
Right.
I'm driving, and I get this ping, and I'm like, I'm freaking out because this is my first fare. I'm like, oh God, what do I do? What do I do? And I let it expire. Yeah.
Well, you were driving. You were being safe.
No. I was
Right?
being safe. Actually, I was at a stoplight. Really, I could have taken it. But I mean, all you have to do is you just hit the one button. I mean, you just hit the one button. It will automatically navigate. It'll just open up a navigation. It'll tell you where to go to get that person to pick them up. And I just didn't do it. So I was like, whatever. So I kept on driving. I got in there, and I got to downtown, and I got in their fare pickup. And I'm like, all right, let's do this one. Boom.
Right.
Turns out my very first fare was a guy that I know because I used to live downtown, and he used to go to the same bars I used to go to after work and have a beer. And I knew him, and I'm like, wait a second, I know you. And he was like, wait, I didn't know you drove for Uber. I'm like, no, you're my very first fare. This is cool. And he goes, what a waste of a fare. You should have gotten a hot chick or something. I'm like, well,
It doesn't work that way, yeah.
I know. But I took him downtown, farther downtown, dropped him off. No big deal. Gave me a 5-star rating. I gave him a 5-star rating. As soon as I hit myself, go back online, boom, another fare picks up. I'm like, all right, this one was just around the block. I had to go around the block, pick up another guy. I took him back up to Uptown near Coors Field where the Rockies were playing, dropped him off. And at that point, I was like, well, it's 4:45. No, I'm sorry, it was like 5:45. I was like, my wife wants me to be home by like 6:30. So I'm like, I'm going to go ahead and just, head home. So I left myself online as I'm driving up I-25 to go home and get another ping for another fare. And I'm like, ooh, do I want to do it? I'm like, no. So I let it expire. And at that point, I shut myself offline because the more I let fares expire, the less fares I'm going to get, I found out.
Okay.
So you want to be picking up as many fares as possible. Now, here's the thing. I drove for about a little less than an hour. So about 45 minutes I drove, right? 45 minutes online. 2 fares, a total of around, I think it was 12 miles driven between the 2 fares. Okay?
All right.
How much money do you think I made?
$10? Maybe.
Like $7.50. Because first off, Uber, for every fare, Uber takes $1.50 off the top, and that covers your insurance. Okay, because as soon as you go online, as soon as you get a fare, you're covered by Uber's insurance. So they take $1.50 right off the top. Then they take 20% of the remaining fare, and you get paid $80. So I made like $3.70 my first fare and like $3.20 my second fare or something like that.
Is it worth it?
Not for just doing it for 45 minutes, but like I said, I'm not doing it for the money. I just wanted to do it for the experience to see what it's like. And if you drive for, a good 8 hours a day, you're picking up every fare you get. Yeah, you can make a couple $100 a day. Yeah.
Now, how do you get paid? They don't pay you.
Yes, they do. They pay you directly. I'm sorry, not the person. Uber
Right.
pays you. So Uber, when you go to set up your account, you obviously give your bank information. They will deposit every week they deposit into your bank.
Right.
From the previous week.
Okay.
So,
all right.
But being that you're a contractor, you fall underneath the 1099 tax code. If you make more than $600 a year, you have to do a 1099 and you have to pay your taxes on that. So
now, at that point, would somebody be able to take a write-off on your fuel?
Absolutely, yeah.
As an Uber
And
driver?
car washes, fuel maintenance, anything like that is all written off on taxes because it's a business at that point.
Wow, not bad.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, that's kind of cool.
It was fun, but I'm going to do it again. But
can we set you up? You think Uber would get mad if we set you up with a camera that you had in the car?
Well, I
and
do
you could
have. I have that Cobra dash cam.
Uber confessions.
Well, actually, there's a bunch of Uber drivers on YouTube that have been doing that, and the passenger will get in. They'll say, "Hey, by the way, I just want to let you know I'm recording. Is that okay?"
Right.
And sometimes they'll say no, and they'll be like, "All right," and they'll switch it off. Or sometimes they'll say, "Yeah, no problem," and they'll just sit there and talk with them, and then they record the whole trip.
That's amazing.
And they put it up on YouTube.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Now, speaking of social media, YouTube, etc., big story that came out this past week about the growth of Snapchat. And I use Snapchat. You can connect with me, Andy Taylor 520. I find Snapchat to be incredible, just for the way it's being used now. I've been following a couple people. We've mentioned them on the show before. There's a doctor that talks business, and they do these videos in like 10 seconds, and they're quick, and they stay up there for like 24 hours. So if you don't catch it that day, usually I'll just sit there when I get a spare, and I'll just go through all my videos that I'm looking at. Phil Hendry, the radio talk show host, who I've always admired as being just a pure genius, is on Snapchat. He's just having way too much fun with it. I mean, he's doing the character voices, the whole bit. Well, they're saying now that Snapchat has grown in its user base more than Twitter. That more people are using Snapchat on a daily basis than they are using Twitter. The thing is, convincing those 55 plus to start using the Snapchat, application, because it tends to be, again, the 12 through 24, the 24 through 35, 35 through 44, 44 through 54, and then it kind of really drops off after that. But I think more people use it, they're going to find that really it's a great way to communicate. The thing is, people say, "Oh, I want to be able to save the picture you just sent me. You're at Brooklyn, or the video." This is the way digital media is.
You can do it on there. You can do it from Snapchat.
Well, you can, but it freaks people out sometimes.
Yeah.
The thing is we save all these pictures. We send to people, and then next thing they got a whole thing, and what do they delete it in one swipe? So this is a way. Just send it. Here's what I am. Experience it with me, and then you
Boom.
move on.
It disappears. Yep.
Yeah. So take a look. If you're not using Snapchat now, the filters are fun, the Snap filters, but take a look at it because it actually is it's a pretty good app. And again, it's growing, and that user base is continuing to kind of get up there. And you can connect with me. I know you don't use it yet.
I do, but I don't. I very rarely use it.
Right. It's too much time. Do you use Twitter more?
No. I mean, I do use Twitter, but I kind of just mostly Facebook, really.
Right.
And Instagram.
All right. We'll be back with more of Tech Talk Radio, our app of the week. It's a cool app if you love music. Justin will be back with that one. I'm Andy Taylor.
And I'm Justin Lemmy. We'll be right back. All right. Welcome back to Tech Talk Radio. I'm Justin Lemmy.
I'm Andy Taylor. We're the show that talks about computers,
technology,
and the internet. Cool thing. Father's Day, June 19th.
Coming up.
Right? Samsung really wants to push its gear products out.
The virtual reality, right?
Yeah, Gear VR. You know they have a camera.
Mm-hmm.
There's a camera you can buy, a Gear VR camera that shoots 360.
I've heard a little bit about this, yeah. Okay.
Well, what they're really doing now is they're pushing. So if you buy yourself the Galaxy S7 or the Galaxy S6 or the Note 5, they'll give you a free Gear VR to go with it.
Wow.
Which is kind of cool. It's a $99 value.
Yeah.
So if you buy the other devices, you get the Gear VR. Great for Father's Day. And
Very cool.
It comes with six Oculus games.
Ooh.
So I haven't played any of the games.
Yeah.
I like what they're doing now at Six Flags with the Gear VR Oculus roller coaster, which I think is pretty cool.
Sure.
All right. So we've got an app of the week that if you're a music lover, I think you're gonna enjoy.
It's an app of the week and it's also a website of the week because they do both. But the website is called musician.com. So it's like the word musician. Take out the M and put YOU. So musician.com. It is a teaching tool used by millions of people and teachers to help you learn how to play guitar, bass guitar, piano, even ukulele. It will teach you, and it's kind of reminiscent of like a Guitar Hero or a Rock Band where you're kind of following the fret strings down a guitar, and it tells you when to hit it. And it actually listens using the microphone on your smartphone if you use the smartphone app, or you can use the website and have a microphone built in. I'm using the boom arm here that I use to talk for Tech Talk Radio. I put that down near the guitar. I just picked myself up a guitar last week as a gift from my in-laws.
Right.
And I'm using Musician right now, and actually check out how well I can play just after 1 week of using Musician. Here we go.
Okay.
It's just
What the hell was that?
That was my own creation. And yeah, I'm getting really good at it. Let me give you another example here.
All right.
It's just great. I love it. Musician.com. You can do, it's a free lesson per day. So if you're not like a strict learning experience, you can just do a free lesson per day and you don't have to pay for anything. But if you really want to take it seriously, it's $9.99 a month.
Can you actually play something honestly?
Actually, yes, I can.
All right, let's hear something.
I think everybody can actually play this, but let me go ahead and give it a shot here.
Smoke on the Water?
No, not
All
that.
right.
Well, yeah, that too, but. Oops, see, I already messed it up.
It still was good.
So, a little Nirvana there for you. But
I liked it.
Yeah, but you do learn things, and as a teacher, if you're a teacher of music, you can use Musician to follow your students' progress, give them custom tracks, custom things to learn from. So it's really nice. That's my website of the week, musician.com.
All right, you can reach us on the web at techtalkradio.com. Follow us on Twitter at TechtalkRadio, Snapchat, Andy Taylor 520. You don't want to give yours out, okay?
No. You're not going to find me.
Instagram, Tech Talk Radio, and of course you could call us anytime. Leave a message if you have a question about something or a comment. We'd love to hear from you. Our toll-free telephone number, 1-800-657-8257.
Wow, that's not right.
No.
1-800-524-6527.
Give us the number. Give us the number again.
1-800-524-6527.
Thank you.
This is Tech Talk Radio. Andy, I hope you have a great week.
You too. We'll catch you next week.
All right, sounds good. And everybody on Facebook Live, thanks for watching. We'll catch you guys next time, and well, see you then.
There you go. Good stuff.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Oh, man.